All right. So we're going to do some fraction stuff. When you write fractions, there are 3 different ways you can write fractions. The worksheet that we were just doing, when we were changing those decimals to fractions, we were writing them as mixed fractions. A mixed fraction has a whole number and a fraction. So this would be 1 and 1/3. There's also proper and improper fractions. Improper fractions get in trouble at school for not being proper. You can do the back, but we're not going to correct it. You can practice them at home. These are our notes. So if we want to change a mixed fraction to an improper fraction, basically what's happening when you have 2 3/4, first I'm going to show you the steps and see if that helps you remember what that is. And then I'm going to show you with a real life example so that hopefully it makes sense why we do what we do. So 2 3/4, so writing that as an improper fraction, we have 2 wholes and 3/4. One of the things you might have seen before is your teacher might have said in the past, well, you're going to take the 2 wholes and multiply it by 4. 2 times 4 is 8. Add it to the 3, and you get 11 over 4. Now, that's a way of doing it, but can you explain why that works?
Because you could change it. No, you could change the 4, the 11 out of 4, you can change it to 2
and 3/4. But why does that happen? So when I like to explain it, I like to explain it using something that I like. So I think about chocolate bars. So I imagine I have 2 3/4 of a chocolate bar. Can you imagine 2 3/4 chocolate bars? You could draw them out. Here's one chocolate bar. Here's another chocolate bar. Here's the third chocolate bar, but we have this whole chocolate bar, this whole chocolate bar. Does that make sense that I have 3/4 of that last chocolate bar? So I bought a chocolate bar that only comes in 4 pieces. And I have 2 full chocolate bars and 3 extra pieces. But if these ones that are full, if I open them up, I would see inside how many pieces does each chocolate bar have? It has 4. How many pieces do I have in total? If I was just counting pieces. 11 of them. So 2 full chocolate bars plus 3/4 is the same as having 11 pieces or 11/4. When we're talking about fractions, especially improper fractions, this is how many pieces in a whole one. Our denominator tells us what we're splitting things into. So if I was talking about something split into quarters, my whole chocolate bar would be split into 4. Of course, you can buy chocolate bars that are split into 10 pieces. There's chocolate bars that are split into 5 pieces. Is that how many Kit Kat has? Or does Kit Kat have 6? It has 4?
Kit Kat has 4, and then like everything else has 6.
Okay.
Oh yeah, I like 6.
I think an Aero bar has 12, doesn't it?
Yeah. Well, 6.
Caramel.
12. Everything has like 12.
And in an improper fraction, the 11 is like how many pieces you have. So when we have 11/4, we're imagining that it takes 4 pieces to make up a whole one, and we have 11 pieces in total. Well, if we put those together, our mixed fraction tells us the 2 is our whole number, and that tells us we have 2 whole chocolate bars. And the fraction part says we don't have enough for another full chocolate bar. We just have 3/4 of that other chocolate bar left. So 2 3/4, you could show it as 2 full chocolate bars and 3/4 of a chocolate bar is left, which is 3 pieces when a whole one makes 4 pieces. Or you could write it as an improper fraction, which is 11/4. Now the steps that we did to write it out again, so when you want to look back at this to figure out how do I go from 2 3/4 to get to 11/4, I take 2 times 4 and add 3 to that to get 11, and then that tells me that I'm going to have 11/4. Because each of my whole ones, and I have 2 whole ones, has 4 pieces. So I'm going to get you to try one. You imagine you have 3 chocolate bars and 5/6. What would that be as an improper fraction? Six times 3 is 18, plus 5 is 23. This is 23/6. If we imagined 3 full chocolate bars, and then you have 5 out of 6 of the last chocolate bar. If you went back to your 3 full chocolate bars and split them up into 6, you would have 6 plus 6 plus 6, which is 18, plus 5 more is 23 pieces. And so 3 and 5/6 gives me 23/6. Now that is when you're changing from a mixed fraction to an improper fraction. You have to also work the other way. What would happen if I started with an improper fraction and had to change it to a mixed fraction? So if I have 13/5, how can I write that as a mixed fraction? If you know 13/5, what you're going to be doing is looking at your times table for 5 and saying 5 times 1 is 5, 5 times 2 is 10, 5 times 3 is 15. What is the number that I could multiply by so I don't go over 13, but I get as close to 13 as possible? 5 times 2. So we're going to know that we're going to have 2 whole numbers in this fraction. Now if I do 5 times 2, I get 10. How many would be left if I needed to go up to 13? No, it's 13. So 2 times 5 is 10. How many would be left to go up to 13? 3. So we would have 3/5 left. Now, if we were thinking about our chocolate bar example, what this fraction of 13/5 mean is it's telling us in order to get a full chocolate bar, you need 5 pieces. That would be 3 full chocolate bars of 5 pieces each. But how many pieces do we have? We have 13 pieces. So if I took those pieces and say it was maybe it's maybe it's a special chocolate bar that even has like spaces for the pieces to sit in the wrapper. And so these are 3 wrappers that I'm left, and I still have 13 pieces, and I start putting the pieces back into the wrapper. And I notice that I could fill this chocolate bar back up by using up 5 of the pieces, this chocolate bar back up by using 5 of the pieces, and then I just have 3 more because I only have 13 pieces. So I have 2 full chocolate bars, and then 3/5 of my last chocolate bar is left. And so that is how I could write that improper fraction as a mixed fraction. Does anyone know what 2 3/5 is as a decimal? 2 point something. No, it's not 2.3. If it was 3 out of 10, it would be 2.6. In order to do tenths, this would have to be over 10. We could change this to 2 3/5 is the same as 6 tenths. Yeah? And then I could write 0.6. Not all fractions are easy to change to decimal. So this one was a little bit tricky because you had to know that 3/5 is the same as 6 tenths to change it to 2.6. Sometimes changing fractions to decimals, you'd have to use your calculator. I'm going to give you one to try on your own. What times tables are harder? 2 is easy. 3 is not bad. 7, 8. 7 is a hard one? Okay, we'll do a mixed fraction with 7. Let's do, let's pick a nice number like 51 over 7. 51 over 7 is an improper fraction. You bought a special chocolate bar that could have 7 pieces to make up one chocolate bar. And you need to figure this out. How many whole chocolate bars would you have, and what would you have left over? Yes. 51 over 7. So you're going to go through your 7 times table and see what is the closest you could get to 51 without going over 51. So I hear some people saying 7 times 7. What is 7 times 7? 49. Is that the closest you can get to 51 without going over? Yes. So you're going to have 7 whole ones. And then how many pieces would be left to make 51? 2 more pieces would be left. So you would get 7 and 2/7.